This episode of Vision Pros is sponsored by Agenda 19. Learn more at www.agenda.com. Welcome to Vision Pros, the show all about spatial computing, visionOS, and getting work done on the Apple Vision Pro. I'm Tim Chatton, host of the show.
So Mac Virtual Display is only working if you're signed into the same iCloud account. But some people are not able to do that. For example, it's a MacBook from work that is using another iCloud account. And then Splitscreen also enables you to mirror that Mac. Or you could use it to mirror two Macs, even if they're in your iCloud, both in your iCloud account, into your Vision. Then you can just use Splitscreen to have a second Mac at the same time inside Vision Pro.
Welcome to another episode of Vision Pros. We're joined this episode by Mathijs, the developer who creates apps I like to call Continuity Plus apps that connect your various Apple devices in cool, unique ways. These include Bezel, Typos, Splitscreen, and the recently launched Persona Webcam. Many of the apps he's working on have received some Sherlocking to one degree or another from Apple with the upcoming OS updates. In this episode, we discuss his feelings regarding this and deep dive into all of his apps. Splitscreen is an app that he is working on with another developer, and we talk about how it's been working on a project like Splitscreen with another developer. We also discuss his experience with other headsets, what he is most excited about by visionOS 2, a potential road trip to Germany to pick up Zeiss lenses, as he now has a somewhat local place to buy Vision Pro stuff now that it is no longer an exclusive to the United States. Mathijs is based out of the Netherlands, where the Agenda team is also located. And my thanks once again to Agenda 19 for sponsoring this episode of Vision Pros. Download Agenda today for free from the App Store. Learn more at www.agenda.com. I'll be sharing more about Agenda a bit later on in this episode. If you want to support the show, go out and try Agenda. It's the app I use to organize and prepare for all of my podcast interviews, including the one you're about to listen to. Early access to both Vision Pros and iPad Pros is available by subscribing in Apple Podcasts or supporting the Patreon at www.visionpros.fm/Patreon. My thanks to everyone that supports the show. With that, here's my interview with Mathijs. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, Mathijs.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited for this discussion today. You have a great many visionOS apps and lots to dive into. So you're kind of the developer behind Bezel, Persona camera that just came out, Typos, and I know you help out with Splitscreen as well. So lots to dive into here.
Yeah, excited to do so.
Can you first kind of introduce a bit on your background? If you've used other headsets in the past, is kind of your background with this kind of whole VR space?
Yeah, for sure. Sure. Yeah, so I was always interested in computers, and I think for me the journey really started when I studied computer science, and then the iPhone came out. So when the iPhone was released, I really wanted to make an app. So the first thing I did was search for an internship to be able to learn iPhone development, basically. So that was really exciting. And from there, I really loved the Apple platform, but also have always been active on other things. So I've tried like Oculus, HTC Vive, etc., but didn't really own one. It was also always lending or trying it out for like a week or something. Never really felt the need to buy such a device. I think one device I found really special was the Microsoft HoloLens, because it really was mixed reality. And I think that triggered me like, oh, this is interesting because you now can pin things to a wall and it stays in place even if you took off the HoloLens and put it back on.
Yeah.
That was like the first time that I was like, okay, that would be awesome to build an app for this. But I was really in the Apple ecosystem, and the device didn't really take off for consumers also. So never got to that. So that basically also made me really excited when Apple came out with the Vision Pro, like, oh, this is interesting. This is that mixed reality feeling all over again, but now on the platform that I really know and already have made a lot of iOS and Mac apps. So it feels like something that I can just jump into and try. So that was really exciting.
Yeah. So from day one, June 5th, whatever, 2023, you're excited for the platform, and this is like, oh, this is awesome. I want to dive into this. and then it's come out, and kind of where's that enthusiasm today for the platform and working on new apps versus the lead up to Vision Pro?
Yeah, I think I'm still really excited. I think I feel it's super early still in the for this platform, right? So everybody's figuring it out. Even the use cases are not obvious yet for a lot of people. Like, okay, what do I use this thing for? And Apple also is iterating a lot on things that, well, like personas are improving, gestures are improving. So I feel it's still early, and that's really exciting to see the platform evolve, get new ideas, see other developers also come out with interesting apps. So yeah, I do feel it's basically still that early feeling of enthusiasm and trying new apps, figuring out what we can do with it. So yeah, still feel very excited, I think, especially once we got the hardware and really. So first, of course, it was just a demo from Apple, and that felt like, oh, this is an interesting new platform. And then once I got to try it, I also felt like, oh, it's even better than I hoped for in a lot of aspects. Pass-through is pretty great, and also just how the eye tracking works and the hand gestures. It's so it's just very impressive. So that's a great great foundation to build upon, also for Apple and for us developers. And it's just getting better year over year, I think. What we already see with visionOS 2 also now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you can see like the keynote, but to actually use it so much different. Like even with like the iPad, it's like, oh, that looks really cool. It's a bigger iPhone. Then you start zooming in on a map. It's like, oh, I see how this could be much different and better.
Yeah, I really also felt like I remember the Retina screens were announced for the iPhone. And it was in the keynote, and I was like, okay, it's probably really nice, but I don't get that feeling. And once I saw it in real life, I was like, okay, I don't ever want to get back to another screen. And it's also a little bit the same with Vision Pro. Like once you put it on and feel and use it, then it's a whole different experience than watching videos about the device. You can't really explain what it is to use it. It's a whole different thing to actually put it on and use it.
Yeah, I gotta say the screens in the Vision Pro have really ruined my PSVR 2, which is like $600. It's I thought those screens were top notch. Not quite, yeah. So, favorite aspect of visionOS or the Apple Vision Pro for you?
Yeah, I think for me it is the mixed reality combined with how good the lighting on everything is. So I keep being impressed about putting like 3D objects in a room, just putting them on a table, and they feel so blended into the real world. I keep finding that very, very impressive, and one of the most interesting things. Also, spatial videos and photos are also something you only can look at in your Vision Pro, and so special. So that's actually one of my favorite aspects of the Vision Pro. That also it is so very accessible. Like I can just shoot a photo with my iPhone or a spatial video now with my iPhone and create that very special content myself. So I think that's my favorite part about the OS and the device, basically, that it feels so blended in and so realistic.
And I'm imagining you're on visionOS 2 at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
The 3D, the spatial photos from any photo feature, I wasn't sure if they'd pull it off, but they sure did.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. And I also have kids, so it's awesome to just tap on that button and it just processes, and it really feels like you're looking at that scene.
I went to the day my daughter was born, and oh boy, if you want the waterworks flow, just go to like the actual birthday or weddings and stuff like that. It's like, oh my gosh, you're really transported back to that time. It's in a real way.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I think that's also so powerful that you I think so what you see with your eyes, like the visual perception of the world is something that's very important for people and how we perceive the world. So that's what Vision Pro is really strong at, and it can also show that depth. And I think that's a whole new and special experience to have. So that's pretty awesome, especially mixed with like the Apple platform. So they're easy apps to use. It's very accessible for both developers and users to get around in. And I think that's also quite a special thing opposed to the other headsets that I've tried before. They were either hard to develop for or hard to use as a user.
Yeah, the integration there, it feels right at home. As we'll talk about with continuity features, and this is a part of the mix where it just feels like another part of the ecosystem that really plays really nicely with everything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're based in the Netherlands. Apple Vision Pro launches February 2nd in the United States. It's just now starting to roll out your side of the world. I'm not even sure. Is Netherlands, I forget, was that part of the included countries or no?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
What's the closest country?
Germany would be closest for me.
Germany.
So I could drive over to an Apple store in Germany and then get the device there right now. So yeah, actually we were like, so I'm working together with a co-founder at our indie company. So we were discussing like, okay, are we going to fly over to the US? It's quite expensive, but maybe we should just do it. Or are we going to wait until it lands in Europe? And then we decided, okay, let's wait till it lands in Europe and just go with the developer labs. But then, the day came closer and closer, and we were like, okay, we just need a device to really experience what it is and be able to test and debug our apps. We really wanted to be there at the day one, just launch our apps with the launch of the Vision Pro. So then I started searching the internet for people who did fly over to the US and imported Vision Pros. Yeah. And I found this person over here in the Netherlands that imported, I think like 8 or 10 Vision Pros. He actually did sell them before he flew over, but a few people backed out. So I just called him up and was like, okay, are you are you scamming me, or is this all okay? But after just a bit back and forth on FaceTime calls, etc., you're like, okay, we can trust each other. This will be okay. And I just drove over to him, checked out the Vision Pro, and then bought it from him. It was a bit of an adventure to just search the internet for people offering Vision Pros, because there was a lot of people scamming other people at that point. But we did find this person, so that was pretty nice. And it's also lucky that that's the downside, right? We couldn't go over to the Apple store, do the measurements, etc.
Yeah.
So I just tried it on over there, and it fit pretty good. So that was nice.
Good, because I imagine he'd have the same exact light seal for all 8 of them, since it's just him.
I think a few people requested a bigger or smaller variant, but I think it's the W21 that he had for nearly all people, and that fit pretty nice for both of us. So that was that worked out well.
That's great. Yeah. So it's 2 people that work on your apps with you, or what's your development?
It's me and my co-founder that are working on the app. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And any modifications you made to the headset to improve comfort? I know I used the Solo Top for that second strap.
Yeah, I have tried some different. So I also ordered some 3D printed modifications, etc. But I keep going back just to the Solo knit band. Yeah. I find it really easy to take off and put on, and it fits. I just need to fiddle a little bit with the device when I put it on, and then it's just fine for me for hours on end. So for me, I think the Vision Pro is pretty comfortable. I don't think so I actually did work for hours on end on it, developing on apps, etc. That's pretty fun. Yeah. I think my main discomfort is that my forehead is getting warm at a certain point, especially when I'm developing apps, etc. But just a short break, like getting a cup of coffee without the device, is then already just fine to to cool down a little bit.
Yeah, we're entering the summer months, so it's a bit of a different kind of season versus when it was a bit cooler outside, which has been interesting to just experience the house not being as cold.
I was also curious. I didn't try it because it's raining a lot right now in the Netherlands, but I really want to try when it's a little more sunny outside, if it also works as an outside device in my garden, just sit out there. My MacBook also, when the sun is out and it shines on your MacBook screen, then it's hard to read all the text. I was wondering, maybe I can use the Vision Pro there and then work outside a little bit.
Yeah, I've not braved that one yet. But I'm with you. That seems like a great way to get some work done outside.
Yeah, exactly. That's something I still have to try.
Yeah. Did you have to deal with any of the lenses for being able to see better inside the headset?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main downsides. So right now I'm wearing my glasses, but I do have to put in lenses, prescription lenses for using the Vision Pro. Since I just bought it from someone else who imported it, I don't have the prescription lenses that go with the Vision Pro. So that's a bit of a hurdle for me. Like normally I'm just wearing my glasses and then I have to switch, putting my contact lenses in and then use the Vision Pro. So that's a bit of a hurdle. Maybe now that it's out in Germany, I can see if I can get the lenses that I can use with the Vision Pro. Would make it a little bit easier for me to put the device on.
Yeah.
But contact lenses work just fine.
Okay. That'll be interesting to see how that process goes over there in Germany. Exactly. I know you need prescription probably, but probably a little bit easier than managing one from the United States and all that. Yeah,
absolutely. So, that's something to look into. I think it will make my Vision Pro usage a little bit easier, especially when I now think, it's late night, I'm on the couch, I want to use the device. Then it's a hassle to go downstairs, do in contact lenses, etc. That's a bit of a hassle. But other than that, it's easy enough to use the device, especially since I also don't have other things attached, so I just can pick it up and then put it on.
Mm-hmm. Do you share the device with anyone, or is it your sole device?
Yeah, it's pretty much my sole device. So other than little demos for family and friends, I use the device only for myself. I do feel I would love to. I think one of the main things I use it only for myself is that I'm logged into my iCloud account. All the stuff is my, and my wife is perfectly okay to also to use my iPad or my Vision Pro. It's not the point that she can't see my data, but more that's inconvenient for her that she just can't open like the calendar app or mail and see her data over there.
Right.
So I think it would be a really powerful feature for me to have proper multi-user support on the Vision Pro. But I'm curious if that will be a priority for Apple. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I was going to mention, you actually get two iris scans, optical ID scans. You have one if you have lenses and one without lenses. So if you were sharing with someone that did not need the lenses, then that person could log in with their eyes kind of thing.
And it works just fine for watching like a movie or something, right? That's okay, and that's perfectly fine to share it. But I think for more productivity stuff, it's a big hurdle if you can't just sign into your own iCloud.
Absolutely, yeah. What are your kind of main use cases outside development for the Vision Pro at this point?
Yeah, I think to be honest, my main use case is development.
Okay, yeah.
So that's often how I start using the device, and when I'm using it, then often I also think, I should also watch this movie or episode, or when the new spatial video from Apple came out with sports, then I want to try that out, and then I'm sticking into the device. Mm-hmm. I do find it quite hard to just pick it up for. I don't really have a main use case like, okay, let's do this in Vision Pro. It's often that I'm triggered by, for example, development to put on the device and then keep using it, because then it's pretty fine.
Yeah.
But when it's late night and I want to watch a movie, I'm more often turning on my TV than picking up my Vision Pro, to be honest. Mm-hmm. but as I said, what I do find really impressive is like the 3D stuff and all the spatial photos and videos that they have. So I feel that's the most. I'm also started doing some 3D printing recently, for example, and then I'm downloading all the 3D models, and that's something I'm like, okay, I want to see how the 3D model likes in my Vision Pro, because that looks really. I can put it on the table, see how big it is actually, rotate it. That is what I find really interesting. So that's something that triggered me also, like, oh, this should be really more apps for 3D modeling, managing 3D stuff, and playing around with that, because I feel that's really where the Vision Pro does something for me that another device can't, and that is really appealing to use it. So yeah, that's something that I find very interesting, and now that I get more and more into the 3D modeling stuff, I find that appealing to try that on my Vision Pro, but I'm not like a 3D modeler yet, so I'm already struggling with going through the first 3D model guides, let alone trying that inside the Vision Pro. But I find that the most compelling stuff, and other than that, it's just mostly watching like a movie, and that's when I'm okay with closing myself off. Like, okay, my wife is watching something else on the TV, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch my own thing, and then it's a perfect device to put on. You have the big theater, great audio. That's something I love.
Yeah, no, it's a great experience. I mean, I'm rewatching a lot of movies I've already seen, but it's like I've never seen them in this kind of setup before.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the 3D modeling, such a great use case, because you'd see, is this the size I actually thought it was as I'm designing this? And I could see a lot of interesting apps pop up in that world.
Yeah, it feels like something that the Vision Pro would be really, really good at, and can do things that are just impossible to do on a Mac or on an iPad, for example. So yeah, I think that could be an area where some game changer apps will pop up that you can get around if you're like a 3D modeler.
Do you have any favorite apps currently for the Vision Pro? I know you don't use it a bunch for non-development and entertainment purposes, but any that have cropped up?
Yeah, well, let's hope. Yeah, I love that I can watch my most of my video content that I want to watch, like Disney Plus, etc. I think that's really nice, and I just like to play around, try out other apps, little productivity apps that I also love to create myself. I don't think that I have really a favorite app, but what I do say to everyone that I give my Vision Pro to try it out is really do just download some 3D objects, like the sample USDZ files that Apple has out there, also from the samples from All Mankind. For All Mankind series, they have the little like space astronaut and models that you can put on a table, and they also animated and have some info about what things are. I feel they're really awesome. So that's actually, if someone has a Vision Pro or gets to try one, they really also should try out those models from Apple.
Yeah, and there's a couple apps out there that are just like filled with these different models, those, and those are it's a great idea of an app. I mean, those are really compelling to just see those in your space.
Yeah, those are really really awesome. So those apps are also really good to just give a try and see what you like. Pocket Rocket is also a really interesting and cool app, I think.
Yeah. So you're up and running with visionOS 2. Have you rearranged your home screen much?
So once they announced like you can now rearrange the home screen, I was like, oh well, good. That's one of those quality of life improvements.
Yes.
And I think I moved like one or two apps maybe to the first page and nothing more, because I realized how much I now use Siri to just launch the apps.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That's my main way to launch apps, and I think for most of the other apps, I now in visionOS to use the new gesture, the hand gesture, to open the home screen, and then I just already know with muscle memory, like, okay, this is on page 3, and then this swipe.
Yeah.
So I expected myself to go rearrange the home screen fully, but I really didn't. And I actually also think that Siri is one of the most powerful things of my Vision Pro to launch apps and avoid doing extra gestures and pressing buttons, etc. on the Vision Pro.
Yeah.
So I really like
Siri
using Siri.
It's great on visionOS, and I love how you look where you want things to open, and it opens there. And it's like very intuitive in that way.
Yeah. I also find it really convenient.
But yeah, I love the rearranging apps because I've got so many I've been testing out and using, and it helps you remember the apps that you actually want to use. Like, oh, I actually did download this, but I kind of forgot about it. But having a front center on page 1 or 2 really helps with that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good thing. Maybe I should just go and rearrange my home screen and just do the work. I'm also a lazy person on my iPhone, so I just throw on some apps there, and then I think my home screen didn't change for years. I just use Search and Siri to launch apps.
Yeah.
So I'm drifting more and more away from like the home screen grid to use for app launching, etc. So it's interesting that I also have that same behavior on my Vision.
Yeah, it is a bit of work because you have to like drag them all. There's no folders to throw stuff in, and if any platform needs the app library, it's the Vision Pro. I don't know what Apple's doing over there, and just give us the app library. It's kind of weird that we're still old school style. I wish the search button was one layer higher in the control center thing, because if you do open up search, it's got the Siri suggestion kind of app widget thing right there, but it's kind of like a pain to get to because that widget thing within search and visionOS has a lot of stuff I'll probably want to open, but it's kind of hard to get to.
Yeah, and that's one thing I feel about the Vision Pro. There are so many of those relatively tiny improvements that they can make a huge difference in daily use, and I'm sure it's on the backlog of a lot of teams working on visionOS right now to create those improvements. So I'm also thinking, okay, we just have to be patient and wait for Apple to create those updates, and they will give us app libraries or better ways to launch apps. One of the things I would really love them to improve is window management, for example. I feel especially when I'm really working and developing inside Vision Pro, I feel I have to do a lot of window management, clicking around. Sometimes a window is behind another window, and then I need to move stuff around. So stuff like expose or hand gestures that can just give me an overview of all the open windows would be awesome to have. But I also understand that I can't do everything at once, and I think that's one of the big powers that Apple has, is that they're really good at iterating on a product and a platform every year and making it better every release. So I'm just looking forward to visionOS 3, 4, 5 making stuff like this way better.
Yeah, making stacks of windows could be super compelling, and like having a way to rotate through the stack with some kind of gesture. Like if they can figure that out, that'll be great. Yeah. Any other visionOS 2 changes you've enjoyed so far with this update?
Yeah, I think so. The most used updates in visionOS 2 are the hand gesture to open Control Center and the home screen. I really love that, and also the keyboard, that my keyboard is visible when I'm in an environment. That was one of the things that was really inconvenient when doing productivity work while in an environment. So really love those quality of life improvements. And as an international user, I also really appreciate that they are now rolling out more keyboards, for example, so that it's not always autocorrecting to English, but also can use other languages, etc. So for me, it's mainly those quality of life improvements. Personas that get better with every release are also great. I think there's a lot to love, and for me, it's mostly the small, the small little quality of life improvements that are making the biggest difference for me in my usage.
Have you discovered the toggle to enable Mac Virtual Display in fully immersive modes?
I didn't really use that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty nifty. because you could be at like Avengers Tower and having your Mac virtual display up and working there if you want to. It's kind of fun.
That's interesting. I think it is, and it's also really a good improvement for developers working on those apps that are going fully immersive, that you can also keep on coding, and it's also really cool that you. Yeah.
That is the main reason it's probably even in the OS as a developer option. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the things that were like, oh, now my display is gone. So.
Right. Yeah.
So that's great that it's there.
Do you have any other just general thoughts about visionOS or Apple Vision Pro before we dive into kind of the main meat of the show?
No, I think it was. We've discussed a lot of things already. So yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So. When WWDC happened this year, you must have been having a lot of feelings as you were watching some of the events transpire. The term Sherlocking is something that developers will use, sometimes accurately, sometimes a bit too over hasty. So your main app, Bezel, allows you to mirror your iPhone or iPad to your Apple Vision Pro or the Mac. You also help out, as we mentioned, with Splitscreen, which lets you add an additional virtual display to visionOS for use with your Mac. And then you also launched Persona Webcam, which I think is untouched as far as Sherlocking and rival from Apple. So I think, as we'll talk about, I think the Bezel is probably the main one that's had a lot of attention towards Apple this year. Can you share a bit of what you were feeling as you were seeing all the things kind of announced this year?
So I think, based on the visionOS announcements, I think it's a bit to be expected. As I already said earlier, I think Apple is great at iterating and improving the OS every year. And a lot of these things that we're fixing with our apps are the things we run into and we feel like, oh, this should be there. Let's create an app to show your iPhone. Because when I put on the Vision Pro and looked at the screen, I noticed letters and fonts are really, really blurry and it's hard to read. So let's create an app that just mirrors your iPhone into the Vision to have it nice and sharp. But of course, we also knew this is something Apple also knows and wants to fix. So it's an app that won't live on for like 10 years.
Right.
So that was to be expected. And that's also with split screen, right? We know Apple will improve Mac Virtual Display. For Persona Webcam also, it lets you use your Persona on your Mac. It wouldn't surprise me if that's in a future visionOS and macOS update to be able to use that. So that's something that is to be expected. I think the thing that shocked me most was that they launched iPhone mirroring on macOS because I expected that to come to visionOS first. Like, okay, you have your iPhone mirrored in visionOS because it's hard to read.
Yes.
So let's have it there. I still feel that iPhone mirroring on Mac is just the first stepping stone towards getting iPhone mirroring properly into visionOS. But that was pretty much a shock because we have also Bezel for Mac where you can mirror your iPhone and record it, etc. And I was like, okay, I didn't expect to get competition from Apple over there on the Mac right now.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. But on visionOS, it's very much what I expect, and also appreciate Apple improving the platform year over year. So that's okay. That's part of the deal when you create apps like you that are basically fixing holes that Apple didn't get to yet.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that iPhone mirroring comes directly to the Vision Pro at one point, but yeah, I'm not optimistic based on universal control still not working iPad to iPad all these years later, kind of thing. Like the Mac seems to be a special platform for all these continuity features where it kind of like shines, you know.
Yeah, it just is a hard problem to basically if they build iPhone mirroring into visionOS, they have to solve the problem where you have to control your iPhone with your eyes, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So and iPhone apps are not created for that. So yeah, that's something that's a challenge, but I think it would be very valuable if they get it to visionOS. But let's see, we never know. So.
Yeah, for sure. And have you tested? Do you have the Mac beta installed anywhere yet?
Yeah. I have it on a second drive, so I can boot into the beta. So on my day-to-day use, I still use the stable macOS, but every now and then I go and boot over to the new beta and try it out and see if all apps are working still.
Have you tested if you can mirror, like use Mac Virtual Display with iPhone mirroring yet?
No, I didn't try that out yet. So that's something that's actually on my list to do and give it a try. That's an interesting thing to experience.
Because a lot of continuity features, they will only let you do one at a time. So I'm curious if they'll enable or disable that. I've heard mixed things about if it's actually usable in Vision Pro through that mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So one thing that Bezel does is you actually put the device in this kind of beautiful frame, which I can see as being a big benefit if you're doing a screen capture or kind of presenting and want to show the device out in the best possible light. Are there other things that you've been looking into doing to differentiate yourself from Apple with Bezel?
Yeah, I think, as you said, I think one of the interesting things is to focus more on recording and being able to either frame the device in the bezel that you want, or just have native features in the app that can help you record the iPhone or put it on a nice background, etc. So those are things we're looking into to differentiate. But we still have to see, like, okay, is that interesting for users? I know on visionOS a lot of users basically use us for what you can also do with AirPlay now. Just AirPlay your phone into, just make it visible and readable. But now that people are getting more used to using their vision, they might also be interested in creating more content there and using that. On the Mac, we already have an experimental feature where you can record your iPhone and then get a nice recording out of the whatever happened on your iPhone. So that's already in there. We want to finish that up and then also see if we can bring that to the Vision app. So those are indeed interesting things to focus on and see if we can make users happy with that.
That'd be very cool to bring recording to visionOS. When you do the bezel part of Bezel, are you able to read the color and finish of the phone or iPad that you're mirroring?
Yeah, we are on macOS, but it's using some private APIs, so we can't bring that to the Vision. But that was one of the things that was pretty exciting. So if you use Bezel on Mac, then it will actually match the exact model and color of the iPhone that you plug in. On the visionOS app, we just now have one 3D model, mainly because we wanted the model to be quite solid. So it was quite a search to find a good 3D model that performed and also was high quality. But I really wanted to have a 3D model in there because I felt since the first time I used the Vision, like that really feels so special that you put the window aside and look at it and then see really a 3D iPhone floating there next to you. That's also correctly reflecting all the light, etc. I think that's always very interesting and very special with Vision stuff. But that's also something that's interesting to see if we can expand upon that and go a bit more down that route. Since that's not something that AirPlay will do. That will just be a simple mirror of your screen. It's already that for years.
It'd be interesting if you had like a lock and unlock button, and when you hit unlock, it could like mirror the gyroscope, and like you could look at the back of the device more easily in Bezel, and kind of like, I don't know, like, because the window's supposed to be kind of locked in your space. It would be interesting to also offer some kind of way to move the device around and kind of see what good that 3D model is. You know?
Yeah, I actually have an experiment that's still not stable, and I have to work it out a little bit more. But then I put the iPhone into a volume instead of being a 2D window. So then you're also able to manipulate the iPhone with your hands. So enlarge it, make it smaller, also rotate it. That's also quite fun to play around with. So that might also be an interesting thing to to add to Bezel for Vision.
Very cool. And then if you do end up finding other models of different colors, it'd be kind of fun to have like a color selector for your iPhone or
exactly
changing stuff like that.
And that's also more valuable if you can just put it in a volume. Then you can also walk around it or rotate it, and then you can actually really see the back of the iPhone. So then it's also way much cooler to change the color or change the model of the iPhone. And then it's a combination of iPhone mirroring and also maybe a bit of nostalgia when you can to select older models, etc., the original iPhone, stuff like that. So that could also be a very cool angle to look into.
For sure. Yeah, the first time I stood up and walked around my room, it's like, oh, this is like a full. This is cool. the 3D model of the iPhone and iPad. Nice. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that was exactly the feeling that we were looking for. Like it's just a little delightful thing that's in the app.
Because you may not realize on Vision Pro at first that it's a full 3D versus just a little frame type thing. Yeah. This episode is sponsored by Agenda, which recently launched version 19. Agenda is the app I use to prepare for and plan all of the podcast episodes across both Vision Pros and iPad Pros. I love how it integrates with my calendar to make sure I hit the appropriate deadlines for my episodes, and the collaboration built into Agenda has been transformative to how I work with guests. Agenda is free to download and use with no obtrusive ads. To unlock the full power of Agenda, give Agenda Premium a shot. One thing I love that Agenda continues to do is their approach to premium features and unlocks. If you ever decide to cancel your Agenda Premium subscription, you get to keep all of the premium features available to you when you were a subscriber. Or you can opt for their lifetime unlock, which will unlock the full power of Agenda on all of your Apple devices with a single one-time purchase. Here are just some of the things Agenda has added to their premium version over the years. Markdown export, custom line spacing, creating and editing events and reminders in Agenda, pinning notes and making footnotes, creating subcategories, archiving projects, saving notes as templates, collaboration, multi-windows, creating private notes and projects, and creating custom smart overviews. Those are just some of the awesome features you unlock by becoming an Agenda Premium user. Another really handy feature is the Recent Projects feature. If you tap the clock icon at the bottom of the sidebar, it will hide projects you haven't touched in a while. This is great for showing you all the projects you are actively working on without the need to archive projects that are simply on hold for a little bit. There is also a special OLED black mode with the premium version to let Agenda truly shine on that new M4 iPad Pro or inside the Apple Vision Pro, and with visionOS 2, there is thankfully an option to force apps to use the dark mode of their apps. Part of what I love about Agenda are the notes themselves. The notes are not just plain text, but the app makes it easy to include things like drawings when I'm on the iPad using the Apple Pencil, document scans, images, and attachments. You can add tables with a super simple UI to add additional rows or columns. And by hitting the plus icon in Agenda, all of these options are presented to you, including a simple way to link that note to another Agenda note with a nice simple interface to locate the note you are looking for to link to. The notes are built with Markdown in mind, but let you forget about that and create something beautiful and readable. If you do want to get that note out of Agenda, you can hit the Copy As option to copy that note as rich text, Markdown, HTML, plain text, a summary, or an Agenda link that you can then put into a different app like OmniFocus, allowing you to quickly get back to the note from a different app. There are also sharing options to export that note as a PDF, text bundle, or an Agenda file. In Agenda 19, the search system was completely revamped. The thing that impresses me the most with this new search system is how it lets you take advantage of these searches. Beyond just the basic search, you can filter down your entire Agenda library as you are browsing it. You can also create a smart overview that lives at the top of the sidebar. Both of these are super powerful and expand beyond what most apps do with search. To learn more, go to agenda.com. Download Agenda 19 today for free from the App Store. My thanks again to Agenda for sponsoring this episode of Vision Pros. Learn more at www.agenda.com. Is audio something you're able to do in Bezel, or is there a limitation within the APIs to do that as well?
We can also mirror the audio, but we didn't. We also didn't do audio for Splitscreen, where we also mirror the your Mac window to into Vision, because audio is very strictly in timing. So if we do audio mirroring and it's off by like 100 milliseconds, and you're playing a video, it feels very off. And my experience was when I just started using my own apps that I always have the iPhone in my hand or the MacBook is just over there. And that just keeps the audio in sync. I do agree it would be nice to have it in the Vision because then you have it also spatially correct, especially if you move the iPhone window over to another place than where your iPhone is. Then you might be looking at the window in visionOS, but the sound is coming from the other side of the room.
Exactly, yeah.
So that feels a bit awkward, but I think other than that, the audio quality and the timing of the audio is way more important, and streaming that especially has timing constraints. So that's the hardest part to solve.
Yeah, that is another app idea that if for the Mac, that's one of the biggest frustrations I have with Mac Virtual Display is audio still playing on my MacBook speakers. You know, maybe if I'm not doing the video stream with your app and it's pure audio, that latency could get cut down. But if you can figure out, you know, very low latency latency from the Mac and having, like, Persona Webcam for the camera, have that for audio from the Mac to the Vision Pro, I think a lot of people would be excited by that because, you know, it'd be so nice to have Mac audio intermixed with my visionOS apps through the speaker pods and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a very interesting feature. I think it would also make sense maybe as a separate app to just get over the audio. So not try to also create an extra screen. Then we don't have the constraint of having to push over video and audio data.
Yeah, video is a big data. So audio is,
exactly.
But yeah,
audio is a lot smaller, but it's also a thing that has to be more precise to not feel out of sync. So yeah. That's an interesting app idea. I'll note it down on the idea list that we have. See if we get to it.
That'd be cool. Yeah. And then I noticed, I did try this. You can mirror with Bezel while also AirPlay mirroring with the built-in system thing. So I could both do iPhone AirPlay mirroring and Bezel at the same time. It's different kind of technology it's using. I'm not sure when I'd ever do this, but it's something you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's indeed possible. Yeah, so it feels like a little bit of a made-up use case, but I can imagine that you do AirPlay to another screen in a room that you're not actually looking at, and then you can also mirror it to inside your Vision or on your Mac, etc. So yeah, those cases are all possible, but it feels a little bit like, okay, is this something that a lot of people are going to do? I'm not sure. But, well, you can do it if you want to, so that's always okay.
And then you can also mirror multiple devices at once with Bezel.
Yeah. So
what are some use cases you could think of for that? And as you roll out recording of devices within Bezel, have you considered, doing multiple devices at once and what that would look like?
So I think that's an interesting use case, and especially for the needs of people that are working or using apps that interact together. So we do that a lot. We have a lot of apps that use multiple devices. And then if you want to do a demo or a show off that a new feature is working, then you need to record all those devices at once to get the full picture. Yeah. That's an interesting use case. I also know that people are just mirroring multiple devices at once because they have just an iPad playing a video in an app that's convenient to use on their iPad. So they just mirror that video over there, and then they also use their iPhone with that one obscure texting app that's not available in visionOS, for example. So then they're just using their iPad, their iPhone, and the Vision all at once. So that's also a use case people do, and I think that's also the exciting thing right now about visionOS. So yeah, it's all possible. You can just combine mirroring multiple devices as you wish, and everybody is exploring like what's working for me, what's the use case for me, how do I want to use visionOS, how do I want to use mirrored devices. It's one big experiment to me, and it's nice to create little utility apps that help people find those ways of working with with visionOS.
Yeah. And something pretty cool that you're able to share on the website for Bezel is that it's actually used at Amazon, Apple, Logitech, PayPal, and Booking.com. What's been kind of the feedback you've gotten from those bigger people, the bigger companies that are actually using Bezel?
Yeah, so I have to say a lot of those companies are mainly using the Mac app, and that's a lot of product managers. I know some of them are also experimenting with like the Vision.
Yeah.
And for them, it's also mirroring, seeing the app, and also quickly. So if you're sharing your view with others or sharing a window in a FaceTime call, then you can just share your iPhone quickly in the FaceTime call you're in the Vision, and then show your, if you're in a development team, show your developer like, hey, I found this bug, or hey, this design could be nicer, or we have this new feature ready, let me show you. So that's what it's used mainly for. Quickly sharing with other people, like this is the latest update on our iOS app.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. Are there any features that you would like to bring to Bezel, but it's been a challenge because of certain API limitations currently?
Yeah, I think the main limitation for us is now that, and that's also a bit of a painful one, is that if you lock your iPhone, the recording stops. That's just a limitation of the recording API that we have. And something we can't really overcome. That's really a hurdle for people, because then if you accidentally lock, or you have an auto lock timer on, then you have to restart the mirroring to the Vision. So yeah, we've looked if we can work around that. That's pretty hard to circumvent. I think other than that, it's pretty flexible. So discovering other devices, etc., is all pretty neatly covered in the APIs Apple has to offer, and also stuff like Windows. I also like the improvements they've now made in visionOS 2 for window management within our app for developers. So we can now push on a new window, and as soon as you close that window, the old window will pop up back up. That was a lot of code to get it all right. So users sometimes get in the situation where they close the window, and then the app has no open windows anymore, but it is still running. So if you select the app, then what should happen? So that's an API improvement we already got in visionOS 2. That's really convenient to have. So I like that, but I think for Bezel there isn't really a lot of limitations. We do a lot of video streaming stuff, so it would be nice if we can give our app a little bit more of a priority. Like, okay, this is a video stream. It needs to be prioritized to make sure that it's not pushed away by other stuff. But I also get that Apple has to be really wary about that, because it will also impact performance of other apps, of course. But it's not really something we bumped into when developing a feature.
On the Mac, you can also use a hardwire with your iPhone to hook up to the Mac for a fastest possible connection kind of deal. Does the wire enable any other features like audio pass-through?
Yeah, it also enables audio pass-through, so that's also something that's possible. But also if you use, for example, AirPlay with your iPhone, you can also AirPlay the audio of the device, so it's not something that needs the hardwire per se. I think the main benefit of the hardwire is just stability. You're not depending on the Wi-Fi that might be flaky or something like that. So that's the main benefit of using the wire. But it's not possible to plug anything in to the Vision Pro. So
not yet.
There we're stuck with wireless, which is okay. But the hardwire is pretty nice that it just is so stable.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else about Bezel we haven't covered yet that you'd like to?
No, I think we've been pretty thorough and covered a lot already around Bezel.
Yeah. So something I've noticed is you specialize in creating apps that really take advantage of multiple devices. So Bezel working from iPad and iOS into the Mac or Vision Pro, Persona camera connecting the Vision Pro and the Mac, Splitscreen, also Mac and Vision Pro connecting, Typos lets you use your iPhone to get text into visionOS. Can you share a bit on how you kind of brainstorm and develop new app ideas? And is it just me, or do you kind of like gravitating towards these kind of multi-device kind of apps that kind of connect your kind of world of Apple devices together.
Yeah, it's absolutely one of the things that I love about the Apple ecosystem and using a Mac and an iPad and an iPhone, etc. That it really works together. And features like handoff are things I use daily and really love. So I also really feel the points where Apple didn't yet get to implement that in the Vision Pro. So that's where a lot of ideas come from. We're just using our Vision, and then so Typos is coming from only the English keyboard was available. So if I text to my friends over here in the Netherlands in Dutch, then it was always autocorrecting to English words. And I was like, this is annoying. So I was like, okay, I want to pick up my iPhone and be able to type on the Dutch keyboard over there, and then just drag over that text into iMessage and then use it over there. And one of the advantages that we do a lot of apps that have this multi-device interaction is that we have a lot of code that's already doing device discovery, setting up the connection, etc. So we can now pretty quickly set up a new app that has to do those multi-device interactions. And I really love working on them, and it's also solving my own pain and problems that I then hope other users also feel, and also that we can solve it for them.
Yeah, and it's something that works really well, like being able to discover the devices that you're using, and that's been, flawless for me, which has been great. And that shared code across apps, that must be, no-brainer.
Yeah, it's really convenient to have that shared code, and also the Apple ecosystem really helps. So there are good APIs to discover other Apple devices, etc., and connect to them without too much hassle. So that's pretty convenient as a developer also to build stuff like that.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite continuity features? It seems like that kind of feature set from Apple must be a thing that, when Universal Control rolled out, your brain was probably like, ooh, that's a thing. And all these other things they've rolled out, Apple Watch Unlock, like what parts of continuity just delight you on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think my number one favorite feature is the copy and paste between your devices. And I don't even think about it anymore as a continuity feature. It's just something that works. I copy something on my iPhone and I paste it on my Mac, etc. That's just super convenient to have. So I really love that. But also all the other features, so the workout mirroring that's now in, that you can see. So the Apple native workout app mirrors your bike workout. That's really great. It's not released yet, but we're also working on a little workout app that mirrors other workouts from your Apple Watch to your iPhone. So that's a feature that I love, and I want to have with every workout that I do. But also like the continuity camera on the phone. I think that's a really great feature. Also the desk cam that you then can use. I don't use that super often, but just only knowing that it's there and that I can just put my iPhone on top of my MacBook and then I have a desk cam. That's super convenient, especially when working. Most of the time, we're working together in the same room. But every now and then, me and my co-founder are remote, and then it's super convenient to have features like that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it definitely feels like your, growing library of apps feels like Continuity Pro, where here's the stuff Apple forgot about.
Yeah, exactly.
How difficult is the testing and bug squashing process where you are working with these apps that are on multiple computers communicating and making sure that all works across, if a user may have an older devices and, making sure, telling a user, hey, is your Mac on the latest version? Maybe it's not. And, kind of doing that.
Yeah,
whole.
that is a bad, that's a bit of a hassle. But experience really helps, so we know what not to do after a few apps that that were harder to get right. But I think one of the main things that really helps us is that we often also have a version that can run on the Mac. So even for the Vision app, we also create a version that then just receives the Persona, for example, on the Mac directly. So that really helps with just verifying that everything's is working correctly. Because everything is then on one machine. So that's really helping. But other than that, supporting multiple different versions is something that's always a hassle, and we just try to create a protocol that we don't need to update. So then we know even V2 of the app is talking the same language as the previous version. That makes it really convenient to update. So as long as possible to keep that the same, that's really helping to make the testing and bug splashing process easier.
As far as Persona Webcam, I want to chat about that next. This app just launched, I think today as we're recording, but a couple weeks ago from when you'll be hearing this. Where did this idea come from?
Yeah, so it was also one of those things when I was using my Vision and Mac Virtual Display, and I just got a call in Slack, and I just hit join the call on my Mac. And then I realized that the camera went on and I was there with the Vision Pro in my head, and I was like, wait, why is it not using my Persona now? It should use my Persona because I'm in the Vision. And if I would have joined the Slack call within the Slack iPad app that I also have installed on the Vision, then it would just have worked. So that really felt like one of those things like, okay, why isn't this just working like I think it should? That experience sparked the idea, and we thought, well, we're experienced in sending over video, discovering the other client, so why not build this app and create a prototype? So that's the first thing that we did, created a little, in like 1.5 days or so, create a little prototype for ourselves to play around with it and see if it's something that's convenient to use. It turned out that we really liked it, so then we worked towards a test flight, and now have released the final stable app. That was also pretty fun to work on. So that's mainly how we get our ideas. Just play around with a vision, and then bump into something, and I think, okay, why not just solve it and create an app for that?
Yeah, and I love this idea, and so glad it exists, because I frequently, when I'm away from my main desk setup, I just have my headless MacBook Air and no webcam there, and it is super nice to be able to bring my Persona into these podcast calls to record. And yeah, it seems like an obvious thing that if I don't have a camera available, or I'm in the Vision Pro where you're seeing me in a headset, use the Persona. It makes total sense. And the way it's just integrated is just so nice, where it's just one of your cameras, and we're doing this to FaceTime. It's just one of the options there in the picker, which is just super well integrated into the Mac through any app.
Yeah, glad you like it. That's great to hear, and that's also something we really love to do and try to push for. Is like, how can we make it really a convenient app? How can we make installation a little bit easier? Guide you through that, because it's quite hard to install a camera extension on macOS right now. So we try to create some guidance around that, and also put the networking and connection code really in the extension itself, instead of you having also to launch the Mac app. Because that was the first prototype, and I all the time forgot myself to launch the Mac app, and I was like, why it's not working? Oh wait, I have to launch the Mac app. I forgot.
Oh.
So
I didn't even realize I don't need to have the Mac app open. So you're saying...
Yeah, so that's perfect. Then you don't even have to think about it.
If I quit this Mac app right now as we're recording, I'm still there.
That's
amazing.
Working. So
okay.
Those are the little things that we don't all explain it to you, but if you just forget to open the Mac app or don't think about it, then things will just work.
I have now removed the Mac app from my Mac dock.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to have it there. It's just running in the background, all doing its job there. So it's something that we can. So maybe that's something I would love to have in an API from Apple, is do some background stuff on the Vision.
Yeah.
So now it's really like on the iPad or on the iPhone, the app needs to be open and present over there to do stuff. I think it would be great to have a little bit more background APIs and permissions to do stuff in the background. For example, for Persona Webcam, then would really make a continuity camera that's just working like you would expect, and you don't even have to open the visionOS app, but that's not possible at this moment.
Right, yeah. One thing I did find delightful is just kind of positioning the app as a camera kind of idea, and you can choose where your persona is looking based on where that camera is positioned, and so you have this mode of just seeing a big 3D camera in front of you. You can also, of course, have a mode of seeing what your persona looks like, but I kind of prefer just here's the camera, and you can position where you want. And right now, it's kind of behind my Mac Virtual Display, so I don't even see the app window right now. It's just kind of there. And where'd this idea come from of this like 3D camera? Just like let's use that versus the Persona preview.
Yeah, so I during the pandemic, I also worked at a startup where we did meeting software, and there I learned and realized that it's not always the best thing to look at yourself all the time. Mm-hmm. It's something you should be able to do because you want to check if everything looks all right. But once you know that, then your focus should be on like the other persons. That's also how it works in real life. You check the mirror, everything is okay. Then you walk into the meeting and you don't worry about how you're looking all the time. So that was something I also wanted to have in this app. Like, okay, you should be able to check if your persona looks all right, if the shot is good. And once it's good, what do you want to show then? And then actually my co-founder was suggesting like, yeah, it's actually like a camera. So why don't we put in a camera? We found this 3D camera and put that in. And that's also something, 3D objects are so great in Vision and it's really good and a match for the thing we're doing here. So that was really fun to put in and felt like something like, oh, let's just have this there as a nice, delightful thing in our app.
Yeah. And it's capturing position. Is it also, it's not distance, right? It's just like as far as the left or right or up or down, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's also something that's in the, that's also something that Apple does with the persona rendering, etc. So they're doing also the relative position of you towards your app and using that as the angle of the persona. And we just thought, oh, that's something we should make use of. And also the camera really helps. So it makes you feel like, oh, it's the shot that the camera is making.
Yes.
It's really easy to understand what's happening there. So yeah, that's it's mainly, so I have to say, it's mainly a feature of visionOS itself. So it works for every app that is using your persona. But we here have a bit of a disconnect. So our app is not the app that's actually using your persona. That's the app on the Mac. So
yes.
That's why we put in the camera to make it all easy to understand.
Yeah. And as you said, I do love the fact with like persona calls, if I'm doing a FaceTime call in visionOS with another visionOS user, it's so nice not having the preview of my persona. You're just looking at that person. Like there's no like looking at yourself kind of thing like we all kind of do in FaceTime calls on other devices. Yeah. So something I noticed testing it last night, like around midnight in pitch darkness, was it appears personas actually need light to function. Do you have any theories as to why this may be? Yeah,
so I think Apple just needs enough light for all the sensors and cameras to see enough of your expression.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also one of the most impressive things about personas, that I'm looking at your persona right now and I can see your eyes moving and all the expression that's on your face. Well, I know that you have a device strapped onto your face.
Yes,
that's covering most of it. So that's really impressive that Apple can record so much of all the muscles in your face and how it's looking right now. So I also think that's the limitation why it needs light for the cameras to see enough of your face to recreate the expression for the persona.
Yeah. So in the past we chatted about audio from the Mac to the Vision Pro. Something I'm curious about, did you ever explore using the Apple Vision Pro microphones on the Mac while using Persona Webcam? Or is that a problem that you figured, there's so many ways to get audio into the Mac already? They should just use their Mac internal speaker or mic or whatnot.
Yeah, we mainly just dropped it from version 1 because we thought, well, your Mac is probably close, so you can just use that mic for now. But it's definitely something that would be great to look into and see if you can use the Apple Vision Pro microphone, because then you can also just walk away from the MacBook and use the audio and the microphones from the Vision Pro. So yeah, I think that would be really convenient to have. It's just something that we didn't get to yet.
Gotcha. And have you been pretty impressed with kind of the improvements OS to OS? Even the point updates for personas, they seem to be getting a lot better quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. I think that's very impressive that they get to make them better every point release. So yeah, I'm really curious what they will look like. Also, what the final version is that Apple has in mind for Persona. They probably have a bar like it should look like this, and they're working towards that. But I already find like the facial expression so spot on that it is really convenient to use it. So we worked remote and had a little meeting, and then we used our visions and did a FaceTime call with the spatial personas, and then it really feels like someone is in the room with you already. So of course it can be visually improved, etc. But I'm already very impressed with what they've pulled off with personas right now. So I think it's a good thing that they feel like, okay, this is the beta, we're working up to something that's really even better than this. So I'm really curious where we're going to get with personas in a few years.
And as far as your app icons, is that work that you do yourself, or do you outsource that? Because I just find, your icons just very delightful. Just the Persona Webcam one especially is just very cute.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, we work with designers for our icons. Persona Webcam icon is created by Mathijs Kadijk. I really love working with him, and I also really love the icon. Every time I look at the icon, I get a smile on my face. Yeah. It's such a happy, funny icon that captures also the purpose of the app quite nicely. So really happy with that icon. But I think that's really like a specialism. So I can get to some decent UX for like the app UI, but creating an icon is like a whole different thing. So really glad we have some designers that we can work with for the icons.
Yeah, and then I also must say I love the business model you settled on of you get this free download of I believe Bezel's this way too, and you can try it out, make sure it works as expected, and then after the time limit's up, you can unlock it for I believe $5 for both Bezel and Persona Webcam. How'd you kind of settle upon this price point, and was it a struggle doing this route versus like a $1 a month subscription kind of thing?
Yeah, so Bezel is paid up front at this moment, mainly because we want to hit day one and didn't have time to put in the in-app purchase and the trial.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
but it's basically the same model. So what we do for like our utility visionOS apps right now is it's a $5 one-time payment, and that's it. And I feel that's a good model because we all know these features are probably at some point in time added by Apple into the OS. Mm-hmm. I feel that it isn't right to then try to get you onto a subscription that you feel like, okay, I'm now getting a year of Persona Webcam, but maybe in an update I don't need it anymore. And also it are like the little tools, and I hope it's also really accessible for a lot of people to just get those utilities and make the vision experience a little bit better for just $5 instead of high prices on monthly recurring revenues. And for us, it's mainly also getting experience with the platform, getting to know it, and hopefully at some point in time we'll work towards an app that's maybe a little bit bigger or does a little bit more, and then we might decide to add a subscription there to make it also sustainable.
Yeah.
But these apps really feel like, okay, we just create the best possible app, then it's there. And it's also not an app that needs to run a server or has recurring costs on our side. So it's fine to just have a one-time fee for it.
And at a certain point, like you discussed, maybe bringing the microphone, but at a certain point, they will be quote unquote feature complete, and having a single price point versus subscription allows you to say, hey, this is done. This is kind of the final. We'll do bug fixes, make sure it keeps working, all that. But at a certain point, there'll be, it just like with subscription, you might feel compelled to add features that don't make sense and just like adding features just to add stuff,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally true. Yeah.
Anything else about Persona Webcam before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I think we're pretty complete. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and give it a shot. It is definitely a feature that I thought should be there, built in by Apple, but I'm glad it's here through your app.
Exactly.
So, briefly, I want to touch on Typos, which lets you enter text into your Vision Pro, and then with a single button, copy that to use it elsewhere. And you mentioned using this to be able to type in your native language versus needing to use the English keyboard. As you've used Vision Pro more and more, I'm sure you've also discovered it might be even faster to just type on your iPhone.
Yeah, that's true. But I also, so I really like using the app. So the weird thing for me, I think also is that in Dutch we use a lot of English words also. So especially with my friends, I talk like a mix of Dutch and English often. So often the Vision OS app is just working for me, but sometimes I need that Dutch input, especially if I'm, for example, sending a message to my parents. And what I discovered that I myself can pretty much type without looking at my iPhone on the keyboard nowadays. So I can just do the input, but it's hard to read like the iMessage feed with the messages with the pass-through. So I either use Bezel to mirror the iPhone and then do the iMessage over there, or I use Typos to do the input and then drag it over into iMessage. It depends a little bit on what setup is already running, what I use. But I think there is a little use case there. Typos is also a free app because we felt like it's just a little convenience thing to get the text in there. And we get a lot of response, especially before the Vision launch in Asia, from people using the Vision Pro over there, because they use different alphabets. So that's not possible even to input without having another keyboard. So that's also something that I think Typos really help people with. But it's really like also a stopgap app, because as soon as Dutch, for example, is supported in visionOS, then this problem will completely go away. And I can just use the keyboard or Siri dictation in Dutch to input my text.
Yeah. You could currently use dictation in Typos to get Dutch dictation into the Vision Pro.
You can use dictation on the iPhone in Dutch, and then it will write it into the text field of Typos, and then it will beam over to the Vision. So yeah, that's also a possibility. Yeah.
Is there any hope of this expanding somehow to use it as a system-wide input, like as a Bluetooth keyboard from the iPhone?
Yeah, so that is something I'm dreaming of, and I've experimented with, but it's a lot of work and pretty hard to get stable also. So I don't know if it's something that we'll ever get to do. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to be able to use the iPhone as a Bluetooth keyboard or even trackpad for the Vision.
Yeah, the trackpad would be super neat, because the only thing that really works is that Magic Trackpad 2. And I guess with visionOS 2 supporting any mouse would give you more ability to spoof a mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I'm using the Magic Mouse myself, so I'm also really happy with the visionOS 2 support of the mouse. Now I can just pick up my mouse that I always use instead of hunting for my trackpad that is lingering around somewhere in my office. So that's already really convenient. But yeah, it's so for Typos, it's really something that I would love to add to be able to do that Bluetooth connection. It's just something that's quite a bit of work, and we didn't get to it yet. We were first focused on the other apps like Persona Webcam. So, but maybe one day, who knows?
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah, but yeah, that trackpad idea, I'd love that, because that's one thing. If you don't like it can be easy to bring a little keyboard with you, but the trackpad sometimes you forget. I assume that if you have an iPad with a Magic Keyboard, you could use the iPad's physical keyboard for input with Typos, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can just run the Typos app and then use any keyboard that's connected to your iPad or your iPhone to do the input.
Sweet.
So,
yeah, because for some reason you can't do that natively.
yeah, exactly.
Mac Virtual Display lets you bring in the Mac keyboard, but there's no way to bring in an iPad keyboard. Yeah. Anything else about Typos to share?
Well, as I already said a little bit, but I think it's if you use the Vision and notice your language isn't supported by the keyboard, give it a try, because then it's interesting to really interesting to use, and it might help you out to input your text a little bit easier.
Now that visionOS 2 is out, I believe the version 1.3 or whatnot came out for support for additional languages. How does visionOS actually work with multiple languages? Is there like a little globe icon like on iOS to switch between keyboards?
Yeah, I have to say I didn't try that yet, because I didn't use my Vision to text a lot during the beta. But I do assume they just added the globe icon to switch keyboards.
Yeah.
To do that. And some languages on iOS support a keyboard that can support multiple languages at once. So actually in the new iOS version, they support an English and Dutch keyboard merged in one. And then I can just type any language and it will change the autocorrect to the right language. So I'm hoping they also bring it to visionOS, but I didn't try that yet. So that's something something to try.
Yeah. I'm curious to try the like Japanese and Chinese kind of style languages. Because I know in iOS you can like draw the katakana in there, and I'm curious if they do anything clever with like input there.
Yeah, that's also very interesting. Also didn't look at that yet. So also don't write those languages myself. It's always very hard to try for me. But that's really interesting how they improved that.
And then finally, Splitscreen. What's your involvement with this app? As I believe you're more of helping out versus the sole creator or team doing this.
Yeah, so Splitscreen is an idea that we had together with Jordi Bruin, who also creates Navi, for example, and some other apps that are also available on Vision. So yeah, we met with him earlier, and we were also talking about our Vision development experiences and what we would love to create. And then together we came with the idea of like, okay, I actually want like a second display next to Mac Virtual Display, just to put on like what I often have is I have my code editor open, a Git client, other developer stuff, and then on my other window, on my other display, I have, for example, Safari with some documentation or a sketch with my idea that I'm working on. And that was something that I missed a little bit on visionOS, just being able to have two displays that I can also move separately. So that was how we imagined like, Splitscreen would be a useful app to create. And we decided let's do it as a joint venture, because we basically both started building the app together, and we've released it under Jordi's developer account. But it's really like a little joint venture of two indies working together.
That's very cool. How personally excited are you for this new ultra-wide wraparound display coming later this year?
Yeah, I'm really excited. So I'm really curious how that will change my need also for my own app Splitscreen.
Yeah.
Like maybe that will solve it, but maybe I still have the wish to just have a separate display that I can drag around.
Yeah, because it will still have utility being a separate thing that you can position maybe above the wraparound or...
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I often do. I actually have my display, and then to the right I have a visionOS app running, and then there is my split screen display. So then I have another visionOS app in between, for example. And well, if the Mac Virtual Display just starts to surround you, it will push out the other Vision apps. Where do I leave those? But I'm really excited to try it later this year and see how it works. I'm also really impressed what they're doing with the technical advancements that are needed to be able to create something like this. So they added high speed network connections and rendering stuff to be able to create such a big display and keep it performant and really make it feel like you're still working natively on your Mac instead through a wireless connection. So yeah, it's both really impressive, and I'm really excited to give it a try.
Yeah, it uses, I guess, foveated rendering on the Mac side.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious how my M1 MacBook Air will hopefully handle that, and hopefully it won't be cut off from support. I'd imagine all M1 Macs and later would support this, but I'm not sure if that's been fully detailed yet.
Up until now, the M1 is a really good investment because it's still supported for a lot of stuff. But I'm really curious when it will be dropped for some more interesting features.
Yeah, I mean, if it can support Apple Intelligence, surely it can support
this new rendering mode. Yeah,
right. Yeah. With a split screen, are you able to create a portrait display? A vertical display as well, or is it just landscape?
Yeah, so it's possible. That I think that's one of the interesting things, that we're also able to create any shape of display. We're also still want to create some more updates, do some more fancy things, but the shape of the display is also something you could change indeed.
And what's the configuration look like for those that haven't used split screen? I can imagine the user interface of this being a challenge of like, you're able to position split screen anywhere in your actual space, but your Mac needs to believe it is only at one space, because I can't imagine you're able to communicate where you positioned it in your real world back to your Mac in real time. So what's this all look like setting
exactly?
it up?
So what we do is you launch the split screen app and connect to your Mac. Then the second display will appear. And what we do is on your Mac, we show a UI of two little displays, and you can drag it in the position that you want to have the display arranged. It's like the little display arrangement feature also that's natively in macOS, but then we recreated that specifically for split screen. So you just drag it to the right position and say, okay, I want to have my split screen display right to the Mac virtual display, and then it configures it on your Mac like that, and then you can just put it in the visionOS world in the position that you want to have it, and then you should also put it to the right to the display if you configured that on your Mac to be in line with each other. And then it's also possible to just drag windows over to the other display. So basically, the short answer is we just ask you as a user where you want to put the display to be sure we have it in the right position in macOS also.
So yeah, you don't need to go into system settings and have this fake display there. It's all handled within split screen, the app itself on the Mac.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So once we need to know the position, we just pop up a window and ask you, and then you don't have to fiddle with system settings, etc.
Yep. And the idea is that you'll be using Mac Virtual Display and then split screen as well. So split screen's that second monitor, and then you'll still use the built-in technology as well, kind of alongside it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it's that's my main use case, at least. So I use it as a secondary display. Another use case is to use display mirroring with a Mac that's not logged into your iCloud account. So Mac Virtual Display is only working if you're signed into the same iCloud account. But some people are not able to do that. For example, it's a MacBook from work that is using another iCloud account. And then split screen also enables you to mirror that Mac. Or you could use it to mirror two Macs, even if they're in your iCloud, both in your iCloud account, into your Vision. Then you can just use split screen to have a second Mac at the same time inside Vision Pro. So that there are some other use cases that you can use. But my main use case personally is also to have it as a second display for my main MacBook.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And yeah, I've heard people, that iCloud limitation can be a real struggle for that. And that's really cool. And I imagine, you just, use your pass-through camera to initiate split screen to get it kicked off. Then once you're off and running, you can just use split screen and kind of forget it's there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then it's just a single extra screen. I'm imagining optimizing multiple displays would be rather challenging for now.
Yeah, so we actually wanted to add like a third or fourth screen, but there's a limitation in the Mac APIs that doesn't let us create another virtual display while you're using Mac Virtual Display. So normally it's possible. You can just create as much virtual displays as you want to. But once Mac Virtual Display is enabled, then there's a limitation of that we can only create one extra display. And those virtual display APIs are also private APIs, so it's not really documented or officially supported by Apple. So yeah, that's one of the limitations that we ran into that we have to live with. So we can only offer you one additional display next to your Mac Virtual Display.
How's it as far as quality-wise compared to Mac Virtual Display? Because you're using the built-in technology alongside your own. So, like, it's a high bar to, I'd imagine, pass to, like, is this as good as the built-in feature? Like, how has that journey been with, like, trying to get this up to snuff with Apple's very, well, as you know, very polished feature?
Yeah, absolutely. And that bar is very high. And also, we can't really compete with that because they're using special features in macOS that are not available to third-party developers. So we can't use the same high-performance screen sharing at the moment or create extra displays as we want to. So there are some limitations there. But I do feel it's working good enough to be usable. But if you have a Mac signed into iCloud and just want one display, Mac Virtual Display is the preferred way to do that. I think Splitscreen really is for that secondary screen or for the MacBook that isn't able to use Mac Virtual Display. I'm still hoping Apple will open up those APIs over time, so we're also able to create like split screen for that Mac that's not logged into your iCloud account, and also use the high performance modes that are available to Apple at the moment. But for now, we just optimize whatever we can in the video encoding and the transmission, etc., to get it as performant as possible. But yeah, it's a challenge, but it's also nice to have a challenge. So I really enjoy it as a developer to just figure out and learn everything about video encoding to get it just a little bit more performant. That's also fun.
Yeah, is Bezel using different technology, I'm sure, to transmit video? So that kind of skill set, is it a bit different to optimize?
It's quite a bit alike. So there are some technical differences, but the main thing of receiving a video feed from your device, having it transmit over to the Vision Pro is pretty much the same. And also iPads and modern iPhones are pretty high resolution. So even the resolution is not that far apart. It's quite a lot of video data to transmit over. So yeah, the challenges are pretty much alike. And that was also one of the things to join forces together with Jordi on the split screen app, because we both had complementary experiences with building apps and doing stuff like that. So Bezel was one of the things that already had some tech that we also could use in split screen. So that's pretty fun to be able to reuse and optimize that, and also port back optimizations to Bezel. And
on split screen, you're able to select different resolutions you want that monitor to display at, or what are the defaults, and how is that adjusted?
Yeah, so you're basically able to configure the display as any regular display. So if you want to change resolutions, we also have some settings in the app where you can fine tune like the bitrate, etc., to see what works for you, because over time we got some feedback and we're seeing that it's very different and really depends on your Wi-Fi conditions what's working best for you. So we have some settings for that, and we're also tuning the defaults every now and then based on feedback that we get. But you can just scale up the screen to a larger display, or keep it like on a full HD display to make sure that's more performant. And I also think that's really dependent on your use case. If you use it as a secondary display, that's just showing a Safari window that never changes, and then you can get away with a very low frame rate and a quite low resolution. And that will be also super performant. But maybe if you're looking at designs, for example, you want to have a higher resolution and a high bitrate to make it look crisp. And then you see whatever your Wi-Fi connection is able to push through. So we give you a lot of options to play around with that and find your optimal configuration.
Have you tested this in an offline capacity where it's a local peer-to-peer network with no internet to work on? Does it function in that way?
Yeah, so that's one of the nice things about Apple APIs that do connection between Apple devices. So it also can build up a direct connection. It can also use your local network. And it will also figure out what's the most stable and fast path to use. But the amount of direct peer-to-peer connections is limited. So if that's already in use with another device, then it's not possible to just have every other device in the neighborhood to connect directly. So that's also a balance. So if we steal the direct connection, that might limit some other functionality. So we also try to use the whatever the network framework from Apple suggests as the best route to use.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. And anything else about Splitscreen before you wrap it up?
No, not really.
Okay. Yeah, these are impressive apps, and it's quite the kind of arsenal you've built up of these different utilities that really do add a lot of just valuable features that, I imagine a lot of users will grow to depend on day after day as they start to incorporate them into their kind of workflows. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, I hope we can create some useful apps that improve people's experience and usefulness of their Vision Pros. So I would be really glad if we can just add a little bit to that. So that's also really nice to do. And it's also solving our own problems. And I also really like to do that and try to create an app that I myself really would like to use. That's really fun to do. And I hope that also creates apps that are valuable to others.
Yeah, creating stuff that you yourself need, I'm sure it helps make sure all the little niceties are there because that's stuff that you'd want. Anything else about Vision Pro or visionOS that you'd like to share before we wrap it up? We've covered a lot, but wasn't sure if there's any closing thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, mainly excited about what's coming and about the upcoming updates. So yeah, really excited what we're going to see. And we're always searching for what are the little gaps, what are the things that we would like to improve. So you can probably expect one or two other apps that we will create once we get to use visionOS 2 and see what we can do there, also with the new APIs that Apple has to offer. So excited about that.
Very cool. Yeah, and I'd imagine visionOS, the Vision user base, are so excited to update that once visionOS 2 is out, you could probably within a month or two just require it on all your apps, and you would have very much distress. Because on iPhone, I know sometimes you have to have multiple versions back and support that, but on Vision Pro, I think all your users will be updating right away when they can.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing people very fast updating both the OS and the apps. I think everyone having a Vision Pro is an early adopter right now and wants to have the latest version of everything. So that's really neat. And also makes it really exciting to work on because you're not working on we have to support this old version of iOS or macOS, but you're always looking forward, okay, what's the next beta doing? What can we add? So that's also a really fun and dynamic environment to be working in.
Yeah, I was hearing Marco talk about on, I think, ATP that, this year we can finally get rid of, this thing from 4 years ago. It's like, yeah, on visionOS, you could just...
On visionOS, we don't have that yet. It will come, I'm sure, but that's also great because then that will also mean that the platform will be successful and that we care about people still on older versions. So I hope we get there, but for now I'm enjoying the freedom of being able to build everything for the latest version.
So where can people follow you online and learn more about these awesome apps?
Yeah, I think the best way to follow me is either on X or on Mastodon. I will post about the latest thing that we're building right there, so you can follow me on there.
Excellent, and I'll have links in the show notes to both those places. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a great chat, and I've loved learning more about these awesome apps.
Yeah, enjoyed it a lot. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's been an interview with Mathijs. My thanks again to Mathijs for his time recording, and my thanks to you for your time and attention tuning in. My thanks once again to Agenda for sponsoring this episode of Vision Pros. Learn more at www.agenda.com. Download Agenda today for free on all of your Apple devices. Early access to this podcast and iPad Pros is available via Apple Podcasts and over at Patreon. Subscribe today at visionpros.fm/Patreon. With that, I'll talk to everyone again real soon.